God of the universe, maker of the stars, who am I that you would know my name?
It is another one of those times, guys. Another one of those times we get to do life on purpose. We hope that you are having an on purpose week. After Shabbat, you're ready to rock and roll. You're ready to be on purpose. You're moving on purpose. So we thank you for joining us. We were off last week, and I know that quite a few missed that. But this week we're back on. I will be, unfortunately, not here next week because I'm celebrating a 10-year anniversary with my wife. So I will be out.
Nice.
Let me get my crying towel out.
I know.
I have it right here.
Just trying to catch up to Mike here as he's been what was that again? 40? What was it? Something? I can't remember how
it's day 44 on episode 33 on the 22nd.
Yes.
So
that's
we got
what we're at right now.
We got a 3-3. No, we got a 2-2-3-3-4-4.
2-2-3-3-4-4.
And just recently we had an anniversary with you, Mike. What was that year again?
I don't know.
68.
Oh, there we go.
What?
All right. It's I'm trying to get there, Mike. I'm trying to get to that number, trying to get there.
No, I had a wedding anniversary, my 42nd. Daniel, if you're saying I'm 68, next time I see you, I want to show you 68.
So as you can tell, this episode is going to be kind of crazy. So you got me, Dave. You got Mike.
No, here's the thing. I've heard this be science. Like this has all of the sciences all on top of it. I have heard that you can be the most creative when you're the most tired, because there's like something that kind of can happen where the part of you that is always criticizing yourself kind of gets shut off in a way, and so you're too tired to tell yourself that you can't do it, and so there's more. So what I'm saying is, everybody get ready, because you got a whole lot of that going on.
I was about to say, I was trying to figure out where you were going there with your Daniel, because I was like, but you know what? All those times studying, all those times being prepared for tests, I think you actually might be right about that. Now you transfer testing with work, I think it's one and the same. So last one we haven't mentioned is Ryan. Ryan's with us here as well. So this should be great.
So Ryan, how with us are you? That's the question.
I'm about 10% with you guys now.
10%. All right.
Yeah. If I'm a V8 engine, I'm firing on like 2 cylinders, y'all.
Yeah. So guys, I guess what we're saying is that though we do this on Monday nights, usually on Monday nights, sometimes it's different, but we all have lives. We're not just kind of sitting here and waiting all week to get on Zoom, but each of us has our different jobs, and we're out there trying to live our lives on purpose. And so this is something that people sometimes don't understand, that when you're doing any type of ministry, and this is what this program is, a ministry. I hope it is ministering to somebody. You don't disconnect. You don't disconnect from life. That we are different people having different jobs, different roles, and then we come in here and here we come, and so we come in kind of tired, the same as everybody else does to things, but the program must go on, because hopefully we got something to say, right?
Yeah,
hopefully so.
Hope so. I think we can figure something out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We usually do.
Let me take us to the place then. Worship. Okay. Now, I was talking to Kathy about this a couple of times, because, she actually does watch our program. And she said, no matter what I did in the last few weeks, you guys took me back to music. Okay. I tried to take you to a different place and you took me back. So I'm just going to let that go and roll with this thing. And let's talk about how music is worship, and how we are, those of us who are not part of the instruments, the platform, the voices on the stage with the microphone and all those kind of things. But does that mean that we're not part of the worship? And we're just watching you guys do it?
Absolutely not. Like, I have a couple things. See if I can arrange them in my brain. So, okay, sweet. They're actually related now that I think about it.
Okay.
So I was listening to buckle in. I was listening to someone recently, and he was saying, um, it was in a church setting, and he was telling everyone, listen, this place right here, this is the weakest place for you to worship because the atmosphere is set for you. Like you are here with this intentional purpose. Like this has already been set aside for you. We have great musicians. We have people who understand worship, and all you have to do is be here. Like this is the weakest, most um I don't want to, not lazy, but like you get what I'm saying. Place for you to worship because everything has been prepared for you, and you can just if as long as you just say yes to it, then you're there. Like this is available to you. And he went through a couple of little things, and then he said, "When was the last time that you worshiped in a place that was not conducive for it?" And the reason I say that is because when we come together to worship with music, with whatever, it should not be an isolated event or an isolated incident. It should be a culmination. And I think this way just about Shabbat in general, or if you happen to meet on Sunday in general, like however you do your meetings, whenever you do it, all of us here, we observe a Saturday Shabbat. Um, it should not be like that is the time that you worship. It should be a culmination of everyone coming together, having worshiped throughout the week. And so when that happens, when you have a group of people who choose to worship throughout their week, meaning they step into a job they don't like and they choose to worship and be grateful to God for having that job and knowing that they have a purpose there. When you have someone who chooses to worship while doing the dishes, I mean, this is where I got to choose to worship is doing the dishes and just, helping help my wife clean everything up at the end of the night so she doesn't go crazy the next day. When you choose to worship in those moments and then you come together, that is what actually creates a powerful environment for worship. And at that point, the music is literally the thing we've been talking about the last few weeks of the background stuff. It's just the thing that kind of accompanies the worship. And so you, the non-musical people, or let's say the participants, as we've been discussing, the participants we've been discussing, the people in the audience, in the group, whatever, those people have just as much, if not more, impact on the effectiveness of the worship than the music people do, because they're the ones that can really take it and run with it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I think if I can just jump off that end, that idea, I recently went to a secular concert and it was, right? Oh man, don't put down your stones. But that was what was interesting. It was there were a couple bands. One band was interacting with the crowd in one way, then the other band reacted differently. What was amazing is I was sitting towards the rear because cheaper tickets, so yay, and we get to go to a live concert. But it was really interesting to see how the interaction from the stage was actually really driven by the response from the people.
Yeah,
that was interesting. How comfortable they were on stage. Again, this is purely secular, but again, we've established many, many times that throughout this broadcast and what science at least knows, music is a part of emotion, and music is what will help you get to a certain emotion. So from the song choices they'd selected, all that, it was all about trying to get the crowd hyped up at first, right? It's, if you think about anything, it's always about trying to get the energy because musicians on stage react to that energy. So I wanted to tail off what Daniel's saying is that absolutely that's true. Is it's nothing to do with, oh, are the guitars in tune and the words are playing perfectly, the lights are showing right, and the singers are singing perfectly. Like, it actually has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with those few people in obedience, just letting it all out, it forms like a ripple effect. I wanted to comment on that.
No, it does. And there's been many times where we've actually been leading worship, and the audience at the particular venue, or whether it would be a conference or a Shabbat gathering or whatever, they may be one of two things. They either may be complacent, where they just want to kind of sit and be entertained. We've talked about this before. Or they may want to enter in. And there's been many times where the audience has not wanted to enter in, but the Spirit was absolutely moving. But it was like he was just moving on the stage amongst the musicians, because nobody that was in the audience wanted to actually dip their toe in the water.
Ryan, that's not just with music, okay? I mean, I've been speaking for a lot of years, and there are times that I go somewhere to speak, and you've got a group of people that are sitting back, like with their arms crossed, going, "Well, bless me if you can." Right. That's hard. You just get drained, and so people say, well, at the end, you must be tired, because I'll go somewhere and maybe speak 3, 4, 5 times in a weekend, and I'll say, well, there's two different tireds here. One of them is that the congregation that I was speaking to, that I was having to it was like shoveling. Okay. It was hard work. It was forced labor. It was just every single word I had to just kind of pry it into people. The other way is that people were so hungry for the word that they just kind of draw it out of you. And I know, we've been in the same conferences together, and we experience the same thing from a speaking standpoint or a worship standpoint. I've come to you, Ryan, many times and said, wow, that was hard. You had to just push through it. And how do you come in? How do people come into a service? Are they coming in open? Are they coming in desiring to be a part of it? Or just the totally opposite side, like, I'm just here because my wife made me, that kind of thing.
Well, that goes back to what Daniel said to kind of open things up, was really, I think it's the people that put the work in during the week, during the times where it's not necessarily conducive to worship, that then they come in and they're actually hungry, and the stage is set, if you will, for them to actually be able to just enter in and it be effortless. If they don't desire it during the week, why would you desire it on your Shabbat?
And I think it's interesting that Dad, you opened with this being a ministry of sorts, and so I think that might be part of this here, is that when people come to gatherings, to conferences, and they see the people on the stage, whether it's the speakers, the musicians, or the worship leaders, it's easy to look at those people and say, oh, they are in ministry. But the truth is that every single person in the room is in ministry. And if you don't acknowledge that whatever you do, whoever you are, you have a ministry, and your ministry is equal to, no less, no greater than, the ministry of those on the stage, then you might come in with only a receiving mind and not just a giving mind, or a receiving heart and not just a giving heart. Because if you acknowledge that you are in ministry, whether it's to your family, to your wife, your children, to your job, whatever you do, where God has placed you, you are in ministry in that area of your life, and it is extremely important. And if you don't understand that, then you're going to go in with a different mindset. But if you do understand it, then you'll come in knowing, not only do I want to receive from these people, I just want to give what I have to offer. And part of that is just understanding that you have something to offer.
No, that's true.
I'm thinking about this in light of a lot of us, we don't do this anymore because we just decided it was something that we didn't want to have to deal with the focus. But in many congregations, we have what's called an oneg. And for those that have not been around Hebrew roots, kind of, or synagogues or something like that, that's the, it's a time of a meal together. Okay, it's not a blood type. So we have this oneg thing, and people get together. So and of course, the scripture says, where two or more are gathered, there shall be food. It's not actually what it says, but it is a principle of life.
Yes.
And so it's funny when you put together, when I was in Florida, when I was pastoring a church there, we would have a dinner on the ground. Is what we called it. No, we didn't actually eat on the ground. Okay, we had tables. We were in the South, but we had tables, and people would go to extremes. I mean, Kathy, a friend of mine and Kathy's, she made a 17-layer chocolate cake. Oh, yes. And she'd come up to me and say, "Preacher, saved a piece of that cake for you because I know it's going to be gone soon. So you're one of my favorite people." And people would, they would take the whole week and prepare this meal. I moved to Tucson, and we have the same concept of a dinner, and people would go by and get a bucket of KFC.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I trying to say? What are you doing when you come to congregation? In our worship, in our receiving of the word? Are we bringing a prepared meal or fast food?
Could you say also it's a battle of the mind? Really, that's really that you're coming down to is where's your mindset at coming into this thing? So the whole week, what are you doing? Like you compared two different people. It was something that was just thrown together quick, which, okay, to not offend anyone who's very good at making things very quickly, very tasty and good. No offense to y'all. It's nothing about that. But there is something about that preparation, that attitude, that mindset. And I've been around those people like you're talking about, Mike, where they took that time the entire week going, what am I going to bring? What am I going to bring? What am I going to bring? Mm-hmm. And they think about it a lot to bring it for them. So then, so take the food aspect out. What are you going to bring for that public gathering of worship? And I think that's been the most thing that's challenged me the most is realizing that worship does not happen. Worship can happen without music. And it really comes down to obedience. And I would even throw in honesty. If you're just being honest with the Father about where you're at with things.
Yeah.
Giving you strength through things. Like I'm just gonna throw that in there because man, if you come into that public gathering, you like talk about instead of you being like, well, I only have my receiver on. I don't have my transmitter on either. I'm just gonna have my receiver on. I'm only gonna receive messages, not transmit messages. I'm only gonna receive. Man, I challenge you to go back into that public time of worship together and turn both of them on. You might find a deeper level that you've never been to before, and you'll realize. What songs were they playing? I have no idea. I was in my own world. And I have no idea what you're thinking or what they were playing.
And one of the reasons that this is so important is because there's going to be people that legitimately they don't have anything to give. Like they're so dry and in a desert season that it is all they have to be there. And I know this firsthand because we have 4 children and they are 6 and under. And it takes everything we have as a family to get through the door. And sometimes right now it's just me and the boys because we're just, yeah, it's hard. It's extremely fulfilling, but man, I maybe drink too much energy drinks these days. Mom, you didn't hear that. No, but that's why it's so important to come in prepared to give and to receive because there's going to be people that need you, that need what you have to offer because they're so dry and they need to receive from you. But if we all come in with just a receiving mindset, then none of that happens and we all leave dry.
To add on to that point, like because there's been times too in worship where I have absolutely felt where I was like I'm receiving mode. I'm just receiving. I don't think I have even enough to even to give to others. But some of the most amazing times is being able to either on stage or out and about, but actually seeing people going to one another. That's so amazing is when that's happening, because you know that's either one of them is at a state of just I am just trying to receive as much as I can, and that other person come in there and just supercharge that. And it's just this amazing thing to watch and observe, and the obedience that one person is listening to the Father going, this is something that needs to be prayed for, or whatever, or even something more intense, or just kindness. Just kindness. It's crazy. This world doesn't have any kindness. So just having kindness is enough to send someone even further.
We are called the body. And have you ever like cut your finger or something, and then all of a sudden you realize how difficult it is to wash your hair or brush your teeth or something because you cut the finger of your dominant hand? It's like how on earth, but you still have that other hand. And so just realizing that we are that body, that sometimes your hand is going to be injured and you need the other part of your body to really step up and like pick up the slack, because you just can't do the things that you would normally do.
Well, with that, it's a great, not segue, but just an example, because, as people that come in and all four of us are normally in ministry mode. When I seldom am at a congregation that I'm not doing some kind of a ministry. Okay, whether it be Life Assembly here, I'll be with Barry Phillips in 2 weeks up in Virginia, God willing. We'll be in Revive together. I don't know the last time that I was in a congregational setting that I was just sitting. It doesn't happen, okay, because that's what I'm called to. You guys, you're probably not going to be, just heading over to, the local congregation and somebody not say, hey, why don't you guys, would you mind? It just is what we do. Okay. But I can tell you very bluntly to people out there, there's times as Daniel was saying, it's hard for me to get through the door. It just is. Because, so many things, we had a crazy, Daniel, well, you guys all know about what's been going on my life personally, in the last few weeks. Sometimes it's hard to even get through the door, but when you get there, you make yourself get there. And the next thing I do is I look up and I see a Chris Sharp walk in the room, and I see Alex walk in the room, and they're there, and they're early, and they're, Chris is walking over to me going, hey, look, let me tell you what God's been showing me this week. And all of a sudden it's like, let's do this. Let's get this thing done. Let's enter into it. But, if everybody's showing up late and you're sitting there, it's, it's almost time for service. Like, well, I guess I'm going to be here by myself today. And then people just kind of drag in the door and, well, what's God saying to you? Well, I don't know. I mean, somebody needs to be coming into the door with something, because maybe it's your something that's going to just release what everybody else in the room needs.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
because we are, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you come in, and Dave, you mentioned those that are dry. I think it was you, Dave. Those that come in and they have nothing necessarily to offer because the cup is empty, if you will. I would also challenge them and say, sometimes you'll come in and be in a place of, and I've found myself here many times, woe is me, or, I'm dealing with something, I'm going through something, you know what I mean? And you want to come in and make it about yourself instead of about him and about the service.
Yeah.
But when you actually step into that role of service to others and those around you, that is when you start realizing, I guess the biggest example I can give, even this week, I had somebody call me, going through some things this week, and I had somebody call me, and they asked me the question. They're like, "You're in ministry, right?" And I'm like, "Yes," you know what I mean. And they're like, well, I have this person that needs help. They need prayer. They may need somebody they can go to. Can you be that person?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this happened, while I was sitting there dealing with something, thinking, woe is me. You know what I mean? But then you have to put that hat on of, yeah, I'll be that person. And then pretty quickly you realize I don't have it that bad. I'm not as dry as I thought it was. I still have more I can give. So then your prayer changes from, oh Father, what can you do? How can we change the situation to give me the enough so I can help this person. Your focus changes. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because we
Absolutely.
talked somewhere weeks ago, I guess it was about we about the concept that we've taught on. All of us have kind of taught together on of how we're not asking the Father to use us, but to flow through us.
Right.
So if we are that conduit, and that conduit is dry, well, okay, what's the best way to get the conduit wet again? Is for his spirit to flow through. And what happens is when his spirit starts to flow through us as that conduit, we also are refreshed from just the presence of that life-giving water of his spirit going through us.
Yeah. That's what I meant to say was that. Yeah. So yeah.
Realizing it's not
Yeah.
by our own strength that carries us through, right? I think that it's too easy. Day in and day out, when you're waking up, when you got to go to work, you're relying on your own physical status, physical strength to be able to get through the day, to be able to get through things. Worship's one of those times where you realize that, wait, I actually can lean on him, or realizing that it's actually been available to you, but we get so in this fast paced go, 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 go that we always rely on, oh, well, we just need to take some more. We just need to get some more. Where's that energy shot? Where I got it? I was hooked on that stuff too. And no judgment there, Daniel, at all. No judgment. I hear you.
Oh,
Well, let me say coffee for all you, the most of you probably out there are probably drinking. So, hey, you judging energy, but come on, coffee. All right. Anyways, off that little soapbox there for a second. I love my coffee. Anyways,
love coffee.
We know that.
yes. But to realize that when it comes to something like this, or really even in other situations, knowing that you can lean on his spirit, you can lean on the attributes he has, that he's keeps giving and giving and giving. And it's like, oh, I do have, like you said, Ryan, you're like, man, I'm going through a lot right now. But then that need's there, and you're like, oh, I got to. Well, if it's not me, then who? Then who else? I think then realizing that, right? Being like the Esther story, realizing if it's not me, then who else?
Mm-hmm.
What if this is the last person that needs to talk to them? What if I would be the last person, but I said, I'm too tired, I can't do it? I think that would live on in your mind forever and ever and ever, realizing that you were it. You were the last checkpoint for that person's life. And got kind of deep there for a second. But it's a dark world. You seriously could be that one person, and realizing that even though you're going through everything in it, you might not be the most, or you might not feel like you're being the most righteous person in that moment. You can be that conduit still.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I
Yeah,
was
and
offered.
I think
God chose you.
yeah. The nice part is when you realize, which even those of us who have realized it initially still have to remember it on a daily basis, that though we are each a well and we are each a conduit and all these things, we are not the source. Raise God.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when we are dry, we are never in a place where we are just waiting for the rain. Like, I don't know when the rain is going to come. Literally, at any point when we turn back to Him, He is ready with the water to refresh us again, to be made new. And one of the best ways I heard this put was from the leader of the campground, Oak Ridge Camp in Oklahoma, where Camp Yeshua used to be held. I worked there for a couple summers. Fantastic group of people. I learned so much. and I just love all of them so much. But the leader of that, he told us one time at the beginning of the summer, because the summers there as a staffer they were nuts. I mean, it is go, go, go every single day. And literally your days off. And of course, you have like a day off, but then maybe you have like 2 hours off on a different day. And that's like it. Every other day, you're just all day long. And so he said at the beginning, you guys are going to get to the point very quickly where you feel empty. You're going to get halfway empty and you're going to feel totally empty, but you're going to ask God to fill you up and he's going to fill you up. And then the next time you're going to get to where you're a quarter empty and feel totally empty. And you're going to ask God to fill you up and he's going to fill you up. And each of those times that he fills you up, it's like your reservoir stretches. And you can go a little more and a little more each time because you're just becoming more supple and more flexible and all these things. And so we are to be like that, but not just always remember we do not have to come up with the endless amount of energy. We don't have to like be concocting these things to, okay, how can I just keep going? Because it's not about us. And the other nice thing is that God is not looking for the perfect well or the perfect conduit or all these things. If he was, then I mean, he would just be looking until Yeshua came back again.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of sincerity and a single word will do everything you need it to do. And that word is yes. When you say yes to what God is asking you to do, you have done your part, honestly. And there was a situation like this in my life recently where it was, I thought it was impossible. I did not think that what he was asking me to do was possible. It was, but the way that he changed my heart 180 degrees on this particular issue after I said yes to him, I had forgotten that kind of thing was possible. And all it took was a yes from me, and he did the rest. He did everything else, literally. He's just that good. Like he does not give a command without also supplying every single thing you need to fulfill the command.
So with that, yes, Daniel, let's talk, let's, where we were going to start with to begin with, we never have gotten there. What about the form? Okay, we're talking about the function of things and what worship is, and in the musical setting and ministering to people and all those things. But you know, I was thinking about the form of worship today, so I turned just to one book of Psalms that I read the other day, and this is Psalm 95. Just going to read just a few verses. Come, let us sing to Adonai. Let's shout for joy to the rock of our salvation. Let's come into his presence with thanksgiving. Let's shout for joy to him with songs of praise. For Adonai is a great God. He is a great king, greater than all gods. He holds the depth of the earth in his hands. The mountain peaks too belong to him. The sea is his, and he made it. His hands shaped the dry ground. Come, let's bow down and worship. Let's kneel before Adonai, who made us. For he is our God. We are the people of his pasture, the sheep of his care. If only today you would listen to his voice. So in there, here's a little bit of the form of worship in just those few verses. We can sing, we can shout, we can have joy, we can enter into his presence, we can bow down, we can kneel, and we can listen. So, you know, he hasn't just given us this kind of this fuzzy thing and didn't tell us anything. He talks about all through scriptures, you know, clap your hands. I wish that men would pray lifting holy hands unto him. These are the things that we can do that are outward expression. Now, here's a question. Let me kind of answer the question, and then I'll throw it to you guys. Is why are we told to do these outward expressions? Is it possible? Because he doesn't need it, okay? He doesn't really need that outward expression, though he's asking us to. Is it possible that the outward expression of our worship is not about us, but is maybe about a person sitting next to us? And they don't know that I'm worshiping God in my heart. Well, bless your heart. I can't see that. People say, well, you know, you know, that Messiah is my joy. Well, let your face get a hold of that once in a while. Wouldn't hurt you to smile.
Another person from that Christian camp would say to people, remind your face that you're saved.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I got the
I
Lord
love
in my
it.
heart. Well, let him out sometimes. Don't just keep him locked up in there.
Mhm.
So maybe that outward expression is about someone else next to us that needs to see our yes so they can now enter into their yes. Did that make sense?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I think I want to jump on that. The whole idea of, like you said, the whole kneeling thing is what I think gets me from that entire psalm, that kneeling part. I think because if you think about it, that's really the idea behind the entire thing is submitting your will to his into who he is, just suppressing it, saying nope, you're kneeling. I think that whenever I've seen that, I've always thought that when it's like, come, let's kneel before him. It is now suppress what you think, what you want, like what your desire, like what you think should be coming from this. Say, God, what do you want from all this? And realizing that you can literally go into your own space. You're right beside people, or you could close your eyes and just be totally somewhere else. And it's amazing. I mean, I see like you'll just feel that just there's something else that happens there. We've talked about filling up. We've talked about like maybe making connections, seeing things. And the form is really that outward expression of what's going on with inside. So if you are forcing yourself outwardly to do things that maybe you're not feeling comfortable with, you're actually opening yourself up to even turning on that receiver because this is like that if you look at body language, right? Body language, when everyone's got their arms crossed, they're no. And it's as a speaker, Mike, I've seen we'll be on stage ready to follow up after Mike. And you'll see some people, and it's like, oh man. And I know that the whole time you're like, oh, I'm gonna crack him. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. Let me have a couple jokes their way.
Oh, man.
They're gonna break.
Yeah.
I got them. I got them. I'm gonna figure, and now I'm gonna figure out what I can get them to outwardly open up so that they can receive what God's got flowing through me.
Yeah.
And that's where I think with you, like you think of it probably in that way. Whereas for us, we're like, okay, what's the next tool we can grab out of our tool bag that will maybe break down a wall so no one's just standing there resistant to outwardly express. And it always surprises us which song, aka tool, that God goes, nope, it's that one. You're like, no, it can't be that one. Nah, it can't be. It has to be this tool. We try that tool, and God goes, nope. Did it work? Nope.
Now, I do want to add, I'm going to be this guy. I do want to add to this one caveat. One thing I would say I don't or would not want to see is people performing outward expression, if you will, for the sake of outward expression, just because.
Yeah.
I would much rather you be honest and in a place of true, honest worship than just be like, oh, well, worship music is playing, therefore I must stand up, I must lift my hands. Because you can do that, just because you might have the appearance of a tree doesn't make you a tree. Right? Now, am I saying that getting out of your comfort zone is a good thing? Yes, absolutely. If you've never done that before, absolutely. But I'm also not, next time you hear Exodus Road, well, they expect me to stand up every time they play. I don't want to say, that's not true. What I do want you to do is worship and enter into an honest place of worship with the Father and go before him in that spirit, thinking of the things he has done for you, praising him for he is worthy of praise, not just being there and be like, well, this is what I'm expected to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I would say I agree wholeheartedly with that, and would also add that I have definitely heard people criticize the people, and I'm sure you guys have too, that are always raising their hands every single time. And they're like, oh, it's just, it's, and I know this is not what you're saying,
Yeah,
but
no.
they're looking at those people like, oh, it's just habit for them. Like, they just do this because, but maybe that's just, they've come to a place in their life that literally every time the worship starts, that's where they are because that's who they are.
Right.
And I would also pair with that is the person who's got their arms crossed. Well, it's just not my personality to, do this kind of thing. And I would say what you're saying, Ryan, like it is a good thing to get out of your comfort zone. And so what I'll actually say for me is think of, let's just paint a little picture here. Let's say um my wife is like, you know, do you love me? Like, you haven't given me a hug in 2 days, and you haven't told me you loved me in 2 days, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, what's in my heart.
Yeah.
How's that? I mean,
We'll
how's that
start
going to
with,
go
Yeah.
over?
yeah, this is
At
marriage
some,
counseling 101 here.
Yeah, here we go.
yeah,
Oh,
at
boy.
some point, what is in your heart has to come out. An
Mhm.
expressionless marriage is going to be sad. Period. End of story. So at some point, there has to be expression in one way or another. And it has to be somewhere other than just in your heart. It has to be made known. It has to be made clear and understood. And I would combine with that, in the same way that faith without works is dead, intention without action is dead.
Mhm.
Like the thoughts in your heart and how you may or may not feel. Maybe you really do. Maybe God really does know your heart and he knows how much you love him. But at some point, that feeling and that thing that is inside of you has to turn into an action. And it was really interesting. I was listening to a conversation between a Jew and a Christian today regarding lust. And
Hmm.
they are both in full agreement with each other about how they were defining it. And but it was interesting because the Christian is like, I may not always know at what point this thing became lust, this action, this sin, whatever it was. I may not be able to define that exact point because the Christian mindset tends toward more spiritual side. And
Yeah.
then the Jewish person is like, yes, I mean we were totally agreed on the definition of lust, but here's the thing that Judaism does is we just give a whole list of things like you're not to do this, 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 and this because those things are clearly defined as lust. And so you have to bring those two things together. It is the spiritual concept and it is also the physical, whatever it is. It can't be just one or the other. They have to cross paths at some point.
Yes.
Well, we got these extreme. Okay, we're talking about the extremes here. We're talking about one side of this thing that somebody walks in and the first note on the guitar and they got their hands in the air. Okay, the other side is the person that's sitting there and stoic and like, well, I wasn't raised this way. That's not my personality. When I just read that these verses out of Psalm 95. I didn't see anywhere in there where it said, well, unless it's not your personality. So okay. But I wasn't raised like that. The religious system that I was in didn't do those things. Yeah, that's me. But then there's that place of, I think for all of us, no matter where we are in that spectrum, we should always be examining ourselves. So I've got in trouble a couple times in congregational settings. Yeah, just a few.
Not you, Mike.
100.
I know.
Few hundred.
Yeah, a few hundred. Yeah.
Oh.
I actually have done this a few times. I've told the dancers to quit dancing. You want to get some people mad at you? Because there's this thing in Hebrew roots movement, it's the dance, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But that dance, I think, is beautiful worship. But I have also come to the place of understanding there are people that can get so involved in the dance, it becomes repetition, and they forget about the purpose of the dance. and maybe they need to sit down for a while. Maybe they need to just stop for a while. Maybe they need to kneel before him, to bow down before him. Maybe the person that's always raising their hands needs to put their hands down. Maybe the person that never raises their hands needs to put their hands up.
Right. So, and that's really what I was saying is that place of honesty. You know, from one extreme to the other. Like, you know, if you're the first person, like you said, if somebody strums a guitar, your hands are in the air, or you're the person that, you know, you sit as far back in the room as possible, you know, so that nobody sees you not stand, you know. Where is the honest worship? Where is the middle ground? And that's really what it comes down to is finding where that is so that you know you're at an honest place of worship with the Father.
Yeah. A conference we did not too long ago, we had been together, and I won't say where. We've been in a number of them lately together. It was tough. You guys were having a tough time, and it was hard for everybody, because people were just not responding well. A lot of folks talking, and I usually am toward the back of the room, just because of myself, my personality. I watch for things kind of in a security kind of thing, not just physical, but a spiritual security. But I found that day, I just need to say, forget that. And I went at the front because I'd gotten so tired of looking and watching people that were not, they were just sitting. That's it. I mean, I know that sounds judgmental, but you know, sometimes it's just a fact. They were just sitting, and I had to disconnect from that. I had to get to where, you know, I had to go to the front so that I could not have that stuff clouding me all the time, because it's poison sometimes. Sitting there and watching people who are refusing to enter into a time of worship can poison you.
Yes, I can.
And I would say, just to back up what you're saying, some of the most powerful moments of worship that I've experienced is when the dancers stop and they're just standing there like that. That's when, you know, that's one of the signs. When a group of Hebrew roots people stopped dancing, that's when you really know something's going on in the room. And I would say the same exact thing is true for musicians. Like, we can really hide behind our instruments sometimes. It is very easy to do.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to be careful for sure to not do that, because it's a vulnerable place to begin with, to be up there submitting yourself to the opinions of everyone. Every single thing you do, say, sing, every note you hit, everything you do, like, it is, it can be under a microscope. It's a very vulnerable place. And to not do the thing that you're up there to do makes you even more vulnerable. But we have to do that sometimes. We have to be discerning, to the best of our ability, which we all fall short, to know when it's time to stop.
Yes.
Turning up that part of your brain, because especially if you start like as a sound and bass guy, my ears are immediately like, music's playing. What are they doing?
Yeah.
What's it sound like? And immediately want to place myself in, well, if I was running the soundboard, I would be changing this, and just starting that part of the brain's just like, oh, it's churning away. Everything's good. And then I start noticing what my outward posture is, and it's, and I'm just all trapped up in here thinking about analyzing and all this stuff. And then I'll go, all right, stop. Like you said, Mike, stop. This is, I'm not here to do this. I'm not grading them. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I'm being ridiculous. I need to stop.
And in the end, the thing that is so incredibly difficult in every single area of life is that we have to walk such a fine balance in everything. Like, because we're talking about this whole thing where faith without works is dead, and how these things, you have to act on these things sometimes. But at the same time, we're called human beings, not human doings. And we have to make sure that even in the midst of knowing that we have to act and act upon our faith, at the same time, not get into the idea like I have to do this in order to please God.
Yeah.
Because
Mm.
the really powerful moments is when there's nothing going on and you're just on your face and he's just there. Like that, but that balance has to be everywhere. That honesty, like you're talking about, Ryan, and it is exhausting. Like, let me just tell you, it's exhausting trying to find that balance in every single area of life.
Yeah. I mean, it for those in ministry, it's like you're supposed to hit a home run every time you step up to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you really are never allowed just the third base hit. And that can put a pressure on you. But if we have anybody that's in ministry of any, I want to speak directly to something here. Whether you're a speaker, a musician, whatever you are, whatever venue, whatever job description you have in this whole thing, act like you're engaged. You know, to watch a speaker that's just deadpan, that never smiles, that never has emotion, that never has any inflection in their, you know, that never has any passion in their voice. I have a hard time with that. Musicians, you know, the hardest the hardest thing for me to do is worship with somebody playing a bass guitar besides David Covert. I don't know if you guys have ever watched bass guitarists. They look totally bored. Absolutely totally bored. They're just like, you know, I guess that playing a bass guitar is, you know, there's not a, I know there's a lot to it, but it's like, you know, there's just some very basic, but at least look like you're into it. Okay. You know, a singer I think that sometimes, though, I can't stand to watch I don't like to listen to myself. You know, Kathy's, you know, gets up on Shabbat morning and puts my Living Torah teaching on, and I don't like to listen to myself. I don't like to look at myself. It just creeps me out. But there's times that I need to watch myself to say, am I, with my inflections, with my voice, with my presence, the way that I'm dressed, you know, am I providing an avenue that is conducive to other people worshiping?
Right.
Or do I look bored? Because if I'm bored with me, how can I tell you to be excited about what I'm saying? Or if you look bored with your, you know, as you're playing, as you're worshiping, if you're looking bored, you're not giving me anything.
Yep. Remember too, and this is actually a stage note that comes from Broadway. Small movements on stage or in front of an audience are not noticeable. They're not seen. Usually it has to be exaggerated movements,
Yeah,
or exaggerated expressions that will carry from the stage to an audience. What am I saying by that? When you're entering in, you better give it all you got, because it's got to translate to that back row.
Mm-hmm.
So don't hold back.
I think that too,
Yeah.
or like that same principle, that same idea, the small movements aren't noticeable, exaggerated ones are. So you'll find out very quickly in a stage sense if you mess up and then you go, oh, what's wrong with me? Why did I mess that up? Now everyone knows you messed up.
Yeah.
But you could have played that off and everything was, then no one would be like, what? You messed up? What? I didn't know you messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Always mess up twice.
Yeah, that's the secret.
The first time you messed up, the second time it's funky.
And I've lived by that, and I love that little principle, Ryan, because that's seriously like it really has. You always will hit a wrong note. It just comes. It happens. Just like in worship, you'll hit a wrong thing sometimes, or you'll I'm guilty of this. Who would have think that I'll get so into my worship, I'll just bump into somebody because I'll be lost in my own world.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm in my own thing.
That's funny.
But it happens, but
Yeah.
you don't allow that to be the defining moment of, oh wow, I
Mhm.
really messed up there. No, keep
Mhm.
moving.
I've really tried to like hardcore incorporate that into when I lead worship, that I don't care, because I I think that we as humans, and especially as um, humans that are believers, like we take ourselves way too seriously, way too seriously.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
does no one think that Yeshua had a sense of humor, and that he was like joking around with the disciples, and like some of
Yeah.
these things that you read, like, that actually seem like really stern. Like he was probably just like, you foolish person. Like, I just, I don't know. I don't see that. And I try to translate that because there's songs that I play that I know I can't hit the notes, but I don't care because I have so much fun with them. And there's just this thing inside of me that has to come out. And, and so here's the question. Are we embarrassed to show Yeshua how grateful we are for what he has done for us?
Oh
No.
boy.
Whether it's in the crowd or whether it's on the stage. Like, sh- I hope that I never become so embarrassed, or worry about what I sound like, or worry about becoming embarrassed, because in the end, like, I don't care what you think, because you didn't die to save me. He did. So everything that I do, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and to lead people, hopefully, because that's what I've been called to in those circumstances. But everything I do is geared toward him and showing him how grateful I am for what he has done for me.
Right. Yeah.
There it is, folks.
Yeah. I'm about to say that.
You heard it here
I'm
first.
done.
That's it right there.
Yeah. Anybody want to add to that?
No, I'll just let that sink in.
No, really, it's that.
I'm gonna use that line now. Somebody's gonna be
Mhm.
like, "This is what I think about this." I'm gonna be like, "Well, did you die for me?"
Did you die for me? Woo!
Yeah.
Oh
I
man.
mean, yeah, consider it this way, guys. He died so that we could have a hope and a future. So I guess since he lived his life on purpose, so should we.
What a
Blessings, guys.
segue.
Yeah. Yeah. David, have a great time next week on your anniversary.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
we will miss
We'll see
you.
ya.
We will.
Miss you
We
guys.
will, for sure.
All right.
You alone hear my every prayer. You're the God who's always